See, labor union begins their indefinite strike today. Now, listen to this Ajuri Ngilali, the president's spokesman. The reason why president is not going to pay the minimum wage demanded by the labor union, TUC. This is the reason why federal government is not going to pay. You understand? Why they allow them to go on this strike. Now, just hear this first, we'll come back and talk about it.
Not enough. Is it the federal government being adamant, or labor labor is unrealistic with its demands?
Thank you very much, Femi. I think the starting point is to recognize that His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would love to have a minimum wage in this country that is even north of 1 million naira per month for every Nigerian. He would love to be able to do that. He does, and his administration does, have the highest regard for our people, and we believe they do deserve the best. But we also recognize that there are economic realities and fundamentals within the country right now that do not support what the organized labor movement is advocating for. And I want to be very clear this evening about what the consequences would be if organized labor got its way. Right now, there is this notion out there that the minimum wage conversation in the country is simply almost a conversation between a federal executive administration and organized labor about a new minimum wage for the federal civil service. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about a new national minimum wage for every Nigerian citizen, both within the formal economy as well as the informal economy. This has ramifications. Essentially, we are moving from the current minimum wage where it is to, if labor got its way, something north of 500,000 naira per month. You're looking at almost 20 times, right? So the impact that would now have on the citizens of the country, we're not talking about government now, we're talking about our people, is, I want to be practical about this. If you're thinking of the mom and pop shop that is dealing in chin-chin and bakery and these kinds of goods and services, the idea that you are going to mandate them to 20 times whatever it is they're paying their staff within that small business, you know that you are essentially mandating the closure of that business, and you are literally indirectly sacking an entire set of people who have families because that business is closing because they cannot live up to the minimum wage that organized labor is asking for. I'll be even more practical about this. Aside from mass job loss across sectors across our nation at a time when we are looking for new job opportunities for the teeming youth population in the country, you're also talking about private schools, for example, where you are now going to be mandating for not just teachers, but janitors, cooks, and the like, a 20 times increase in the wages they will have to pay. What that will now mean is that if those schools don't just close, or if they don't have to go into a mass retrenchment exercise, what it will also mean is for the Nigerian citizen right now who is currently, grappling with what we all agree is an unsustainably low minimum wage as it is today, he or she is now going to be grappling with school fees that are 10 times plus what they presently are today. Not to talk of the price of food items, not to talk of the price of so many other goods and commodities that our people, even if they're in a struggling state, can kind of try and afford. It now becomes totally unsustainable. So these are, I think, some of the real pragmatic assessments that need to be made public so that everyone understands that this is not just a matter of government not wanting to budge or government wanting to maintain as much of its revenues as possible. No, we're talking about an existential issue to the Nigerian economy, and it should be treated as such.
Okay, that tripartite committee is negotiating with Labour on behalf of the president and the government. Now, I know you don't speak for that committee, you speak for the president.
That's right.
Will the president be willing to shift grounds?
Let me say that we have never had a more pragmatic president who recognizes the very minute and acute challenges that our people face. I mean, this was a president who, when he was governor, went to the level of paying NECO fees for indigent families in Lagos State. I mean, that is the level of attention to detail that he pays to issues confronting his constituency. Now the nation is his constituency, and he's no less concerned, if not even more so, given the wide raft of responsibility. So he is a man of empathy. He is going to do what is right, but he's also going to ensure that while he does his very best for Nigerian families, irrespective of which part of the country they come from and what sector they operate in, he's also going to ensure that there is not a mass retrenchment as a result of any, as a result of any kind of move by organized labor to try and push, the government to a threshold of agreeing to something that is in effect unachievable and unsustainable.
Okay, this is coming at a time when the administration is basking in the euphoria of that 1 year in office and celebration. You know, we have seen the president go around, inaugurate major projects. We have seen scorecards are being reeled out by ministers and all heads of government agencies and parastatals. It's 1 year of President Tinubu's administration. Comments, different comments, divergent views and all of that. But really, what are those things in actuality that Nigerians can see and touch and say, indeed, 1 year is worth the time?
You know, Femi, I don't know that it's basking in euphoria so much as it's just a recognition of the very hard work that has gone into, making the country over the long term a better place to live for all of our people. And that's why we've had, I think, very muted celebrations on the part of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Instead of the pomp and pageantry, he's been out commissioning projects that will have direct impact on people's lives from Lagos to Abuja. And of course, we've seen commissionings all across the country within the states as well. And then on top of that, we saw the president, for example, really communicate very clearly about what it is his administration has done through, of course, the Federal Executive Council members, the honorable ministers, giving their scorecard as to what has been achieved. But I would like to touch on just a few things, right? It's no secret that His Excellency, Mr. President, has now overseen the effective implementation of the Presidential Power Initiative with Siemens Energy, which is ongoing now without any hiccups, as we had, previously seen under the previous leadership at the Ministry of Power, for example. It's now going on very well. We're seeing those substations arriving in the country, and as a result, we're seeing some level of relative stabilization within the currents across the country. We still have a lot of work to do, which is why we're not clapping and dancing at this point. We also would look at the oil and gas sector, where there have been major, announcements made with respect to over $6 billion of investment coming in from various IOCs and new deep offshore production, which is obviously going to ramp up the revenue of the Nigerian Federation. I think it was just the other day we saw Ogun State being announced as another frontier oil exploration, a state of exploration. So you look at gas, for example, where the president just recently unveiled 3 new gas processing and handling facilities in different parts of the country to ensure that we're not just producing raw natural gas for export, but that we are monetizing to the greatest extent possible value additive gas products that we can now not just use locally to satisfy local demand, but ultimately export the surplus as we begin to ramp up the establishment of these facilities around the country. Again, new pipelines are being completed across the country. Of course, the OB3, the AKK, we're getting ready to extend that across the Sahara now, so that we have the trans-Saharan Nigerian gas pipeline that will ultimately pipe Nigerian gas up to Western Europe, creating a brand new stream of billions of dollars in revenue. There's so much that has been done. If I look at road infrastructure, it's no secret that the president has obviously flagged off the 700-kilometer Lagos-Calabar superhighway, in addition to the Sokoto-Badagry superhighway that's coming up here very soon. We have new rail links that this president is putting in place, an extension of the 326-kilometer Warri-Itakpe rail line that from the Warri end will be extended into the Warri seaport to create more port access in diversification away from just the western seaports. But then on the northern side at the Itakpe end will now be extended up through Kogi, through Lokoja, all the way up to Abuja, so that as we link Abuja-Kano very soon, when that's finished over the next 2 years, you're now going to be able to move goods from northern Nigeria down to the south or to the southwest as the president completes the branch from Ibadan all the way to Abuja as well. There is so much to talk about. I can't, of course, exhaust everything he's done in MSME capitalization, 200 billion in grants and loans to over 1 million nano businesses across the country, in addition to the fact that this is a president who has also now ensured that he is the president that goes and reforms our tax code in such a way that we can ease the process of doing business in the country for foreign investors by taking our current net number of taxes from 63 down to single digits over the course of the next few months. And we've seen the way that investor confidence in our economy has grown, and we've seen the way that that has manifested in the growth of tax revenue within the FIRS over the course of the last 6 months. There's a lot that we can talk about.
Okay, but will we see a cabinet reshuffle soon? Because the president, at the inauguration of the new ministers, said that he is going to let go of non-performing ministers. Nigerians have been waiting to see that happen. How soon is it in the offing?
Well, look, the president is not a man who is driven by television commentary, and he's not driven by just sheer emotion. He's driven by a pragmatic assessment of facts and figures with respect to the performance of the members of his cabinet, and he's going to take decisions accordingly. And so he is not going to rush to meet up with any kind of deadline set by public commentators. He's going to do it in his own time, but he's been very clear with all members of the cabinet, as well as most recently in a meeting with Ariwa leaders. He said it very clearly that any cabinet minister, irrespective of how well they know him personally, if they are failing Nigerians in terms of bad performance or poor service delivery, he will sack them without thinking twice. I think his background shows that he means what he says, and that continues to be the case. But I think we should be clear about the fact that unlike maybe previous administrations since 1999, where some of these decisions are taken arbitrarily just because a president wants to be seen as shaking things up, the president is going to be taking his decisions based on a measurable set of indices that he set under the office of the Special Advisor to the President on Policy and Coordination, the performance contracts and agreements that all ministers had to sign. They will be judged according to that template.
Okay, there was a media storm just recently about a statement you issued that seemed to contradict an earlier statement put out by the same administration, and this was suggestive of some kind of confusion or disagreement within the presidency. Is that the case? Is there confusion in the presidency?
Femi, this is something that I watched, a lot of the television and radio coverage of the situation, and it's totally unfortunate and misguided in the sense that anyone who is being fair-minded and unbiased about the actual wording of each of the statements that came out, what they would recognize is first and foremost that we made a clear reference to public commentary. We were in a situation in which on television stations around the country one evening, it was being reported that the president is going to provide a State of the Nation address to a joint sitting of the National Assembly. It was a very clear insinuation that was made, a declaration that was made on several news broadcasts and the like. This was alarming to us because there was no statement from the State House at all. None of the two statements that have been cited that said anything about a State of the Nation address, right? So that's number one. Number two, I think we have to also be clear about the fact that the Speaker of the House of Representatives came out publicly and clarified what the confusion was and around some of the miscommunication that happened. And our statement simply dealt with the public commentary around the idea that there was a State of the Nation address. We never said the president was not going to attend an event in the National Assembly. We never said the president would not give, extemporaneous remarks at the National Assembly. We never said any of that. What we said is that there will be no speech delivered before a joint session of the National Assembly concerning, kind of an overview of his administration for May 29th. And the last point I really need to make is I've been really saddened by some of the commentary attempting to create confusion and division within the office of the president with respect to my humble self and a very respected elder colleague in the person of Mr. Bayo Onanuga. I want to be very clear that when I was somewhere in primary school, Mr. Onanuga was risking his life on the streets of Lagos against murderous oppressors, defending the right of Nigerians to be able to vote for their leaders. Anybody thinking that they can create an impression that I see myself as on par or on level with somebody of the stature of Mr. Bayo Onanuga, that I'm competing with him, that I'm antagonizing him in any way, somebody that I revere and respect to the utmost, that conversation should stop. When I was sitting at the foot of my father in his parlor growing up, he told me, any wise son who wants to live long will never disrespect his fathers and his elders. That's how I live my life.
All right, then.
How are you listening to that? That is the reason why federal government is not going to pay, because other small businesses, they are going to fold up. They are not going to meet up. They are not going to meet up to pay their workers. They will be folding up. Schools and all, according to you, they will be folding up because they can't afford to pay. That is your own perspective, because that is what favors the federal government. You do not think about the current prices of food and services now. If the same workers are able to pay, are able to buy, are able to patronize them, the small businesses you're talking about, if they are making profit as we speak now, why? Because there is no money to buy them, because the price are very expensive now. Some of them are 100% increase, 200% increase. Now, when they say there is inflation, there is inflation. It's not because there is no food to buy. There is no money to buy the food. That is the problem, because they are too expensive. There is food. People have food to sell. If you go supermarket, if you go everywhere, people are still selling food. People have food product to sell. They do not have money to buy them. That is a major problem. Now, if there is money to buy them, you use money to grow your economy. You don't understand. If the sellers are not being patronized, so how are they going to make their profit? How are they going to make their gain at the end of the day? How are they going to pay their salaries at the end of the day? It's not by you having the goods in your shops. It's customers. What is the turnover? Are you gaining customer patronizing you? They don't have money to buy them. Now, if you increase their salary, yes, then they can have more money to patronize those people. The more they sell, the more they make money. Then they can afford to pay their workers. Isn't it? Even if at all, let's say, okay, the minimum wage is too big, 400 or something they are demanding is too much, but the gap between the labor union and the federal government, the gap is just too much. Somebody is requesting for 494,000 before 470,000, and you are offering them 60,000 per month. The gap is too much. How are they going to close that gap? How? No, it's not. It's not done like that. The gap is too much. That is the problem. If somebody is asking for 400 or something thousand, you are asking below 100,000. You see the difference is too much for anybody to take, for labor union to agree. Meanwhile, they are talking about that the reason of that increase, nothing has been done regarding that. The food and services, the price of foods and services has not been reduced. What stops you to say, okay, we are going to pay this amount of money, 60,000, 100,000, your transportation will be subsidized. We're going to pay your transportation. We're going to subsidize your food. Okay, every workers, we're giving you a voucher card. Go to supermarket and buy at a discount rate. At a discounted rate, nothing like that. Okay, take this voucher, pay for your school fees at the discounted rate. Why we paying this minimum wage? When things get better, then we can withdraw our voucher card. Then everything go back to normal. Everybody can pay. What is stopping that? There's nothing like that. And you just expect them to agree with you because you are the president. 60,000 against 400 or something. To me, the gap is too much. Those people, you are considering the fact that those small businesses, they are going to fold, or they are not going to make up to pay their workers. Even now, as we speak, some of them cannot even afford to pay because there is no money, there is no patronage. People are not buying them. If more money from them, they will buy more. The more money you have, the more purchase. Please, what do you think? Please, wow, you don't see over that contradicting statement, confusion. You don't push and give other media houses. So media houses do not understand your English, or do not understand bio or non-legal English. Was it not the statement pulled out from the government office that the media thought about? So they do not understand the English. They are the one now. They must look for somebody to blame. That is the problem. They will never take the correction, take the blame upon themselves. Then I take the correction and try to avoid it never to happen again. How many times you contradicting statement, lying every time? You don't understand. Just 1 year, I can count to you now how many of these lies when this man come to lie. Even waiting you talk about now, there are some lies inside which you know actually they talk. You know, saying a lie, all those things you spoke about, none of those things, many of them will not be actualized. You don't understand. So they must look for somebody to blame. Your confusion, contradicting statement. So somebody want to claim leader over because both of you are doing exactly the same job, which I do not understand the reason of you doing the same job. It's the same thing. So somebody want to claim the leadership of that position. That is it. And now you are blaming the media houses who report your message. Please share, like, comment, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Justin Evos Double S. Please, let's grow this YouTube channel.